Hey guys, it's me, Anchor64 again for another video. This time I'm going to talk about a recent post I found on the Air Classic WoW subreddit. So I found this post, I was scrolling through the subreddit, and someone just posted this. So CHRSLP, the person who posted this. What this is pretty much just a survey that went out, and of course not everyone got that. But this person made images of every question and just posted it to Reddit, so props for that. Which is pretty interesting. So these questions are always pretty interesting, so you can actually see what Blizzard has kind of in mind. And I definitely want to talk about this because Classic Plus is a thing I am pretty, I don't know, I really like talking about Classic Plus and so on. I played SOD, I had some problems with it, and it's pretty interesting to see what they maybe have in mind. I also talked about this when I was talking about SOD in one of my videos I made, that I think they will make another Classic Plus thing, like another server. Yeah, which is apparently kind of true because we will see that in a bit. But yeah, whatever. As always, if you like these kinds of videos, feel free to like and subscribe, the usual stuff, whatever. Let's actually get to the video. So yeah, we have a lot of different features, which I will give my own opinion on. Of course, if you have your own opinion, feel free to comment. But let's actually get to the first site. Let me switch over so you can actually see it maximized, so we can actually see what it is on here. So we have playable shamans on the Alliance side. Introduction of shaman class to the Alliance. Definitely agree. This would be a good idea, good feature to have. However, I think they need to kind of make it interesting. Just giving, for example, dwarves the ability to be shamans, that's kind of boring, let's be honest. I want to have more races, so we can have, like, for example, shamans on that, or maybe shamans on Alliance and so on are different than they are on Horde. Things like that. Give it a bit more flavor. Like, just copying it and just giving dwarves the ability to be shamans, I don't know. I think they should do a bit more than that. Collections, UI-based storage system for pets, mount toys to free up inventory space. Yeah, just to keep it short, I pretty much agree with this. I really like how they did it in Modern WoW, where you have a really nice UI tab where you can actually use your mounts, see your toys and pets, and can use it from there. That is not really the case we have in Classic. For example, we need to use like items to summon our mounts, which is kind of annoying, and it takes inventory space. One thing I am curious about is how they will do like toys. Like what classifies as a toy in Classic. Yeah, I don't know how they would do that, to be honest. They pretty much. Account-wide collections. Making all pets, mounts, and toys available to all characters on your account is another thing that is mostly a good idea. This could be kind of make things would incentivize people to have alts just to farm certain mounts and so on, which would be kind of annoying. And just farm mounts, for example, with just maybe one character or so. And also would decrease the status of some mounts, because if you just need the mount on one character and have it on everyone, yeah, I don't know, but still I think mostly this would be probably a good change. Next one, we have 1v1 duel arenas. So 1v1 duel arenas, if you maybe you didn't know about it, but actually this was planned, like not really 1v1 I think, but like arenas, like duel arenas was a thing that was planned in vanilla. So there's a space in Orgrimmar, for example. I don't know what it is there currently because I'm not a Horde player, but there is like a certain place in Orgrimmar which was planned to be like an arena where you could go and watch some people duke it out pretty much. which is also what this is suggesting. For example, the ability to go into a special dueling area for 1v1 contests that are viewable by spectators. You will see sometimes, for example, people outside of Stormwind dueling each other. I think why not have a space inside the city where we can do that and watch it. So that would be pretty interesting actually. So yeah, I would actually like this a lot. This is a pretty good idea. So yeah, definitely this would be a good feature to have. New player character models, 100% no. Like this would be, I think most classic players would probably agree with this as well. This would be a thing I would mostly like 100% be against. Why is that the case? If you don't really know, maybe you don't really play Retail WoW. I don't, but I know how it looks like. And I know why I don't play it. But yeah. Maybe this? I just want to see the models. That's it. Maybe I need to go for free here. Yeah, this one. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit unprepared. The thing is, I could talk about this all day. The thing is mostly what they did when they made the like new models. I think there's a pretty stark difference between the old team and the newer team. Like the old models, what they tried is they kind of tried to make them realistic. They looked at Warcraft and tried to bring that into a 3D area, optimize the models a bit to make it work into a 3D environment. But it is pretty much the Warcraft style. What I mean by that is, if you don't know, because before World of Warcraft we had Warcraft, and it has a certain distinct art style. Like the Warcraft or art style is pretty unique. And for example, this one is probably one of the more famous one. Like Metzen did a lot of illustrations. Really, Chris Metzen, pretty famous person. And as you can see, like this art style is missing a lot in the modern WoW. For example, there's also another meme like this one. So yeah, you can see how raw, rough, like the Warcraft style was, how edgy and so on, but really pretty badass and like unique, and not like cartoony or Disney-like at all. It was pretty raw, and this is pretty much the thing they kind of have in Classic, in Vanilla. However, the more modern WoW is more like this, where we have really bouncy characters, really cartoony, not really serious at all, looks like Goofy, pretty much. And we don't really have any seriousness, and the whole edge is pretty much gone, which is also reflected on the models. So this is probably, like in comparison, for example, this one would be the vanilla WoW orc, and this would be the Legion one. And as you can see, this looks really goofy and exaggerated. Yeah, yeah, it just looks way worse, and this doesn't fit vanilla at all. I really hate the new models. I would probably pretty much quit if they would bring them over and force us to use them. Like, as you can see, this would be like the normal running animation, and this one is really exaggerated. So it is really too much. This one is not even the worst one. Like Orc looks pretty decent. We have some other races. I don't know if it's shown here. Yeah, this one also looks pretty normal. But yeah, as you can see, a lot of stuff is really exaggerated, and animations would also go with the models, and it's plainly wrong, pretty much. So yeah, you can see this here, for example, from the norm. It didn't really show the worst ones. I think probably the reason this is like from IGN, and yeah, like humans, for example, look horrible on the new human models, the newer ones. I think it's here. Like this is a normal human we have in Vanilla, Classic, and this is a like modern one, and it looks horrible. Like, let's be honest, it looks like so soulless. It looks so, I don't know, it doesn't really look anything realistic at all. It looks just stupid. Let's just be honest. Like, it looks so strange. So yeah, I really hate the new models. I don't really like how the animation works. I don't really like how they look like. It's so unserious. Just like this would be, I would be vehemently against this one. I wouldn't support it at all. Like new player character models, and I think a lot of people agree with that sentiment. They don't really want new character models. What we could have, however, is why don't we have like things that were in the beta of WoW or vanilla WoW? Why can't we have things like these instead? So, for example, we have like the old, unused, which they changed before release, like female troll model. And I don't mean by that we need to replace the ones we have right now. So no, why can't we have the choice where we can actually choose? But now we can't really do that. Which is kind of annoying. I think that would be the better direction. Also, like the older from Alpha WoW human models and so on, where we could actually choose which models we could choose, like maybe older ones, like Gargaro is one pretty famous example. I think there's some. There's like somewhere we have some Kul Tirans actually. I don't know where it is. Oh, I think if I type this one, which will also become relevant later. Where was it? No, I think I can't find it here. Yeah, but whatever. We have a lot of old models that are unused. We have like as well as that old Defias model that is used in Deadmines. This one, which is also from Warcraft, which is pretty much unused, looks really different from the human model we are using. But yeah, why don't we have these ones, for example? Or like the pirate one we have, which also looks a lot different. Oh no, this is kind of the modern one. But you know what I mean? Is it would be way more interesting to have these like unused models we have in the game, and we could use them instead, which also have that classic thematic, which these ones don't. Like the new ones don't really have that. Okay, next one I talked a lot about this, but yeah, like character models is a pretty big thing. Oh, sorry. We have in-game events. So in-game events, new events that offer different small quests and casual gameplay around the world. This would release between large updates. Yes and no. So it really depends what they mean by that, because it doesn't really say a lot here. But we could have a lot of different stuff. What I really like are events like the Scourge event. So events like these, which is pretty much before next RAM is released, which gives us some flavored gear, and so on. You have all that thematic with the Scourge invading and so on. What I don't really like is events like, for example, the Stranglethorn PvP events I did in Season of Discovery, which was pretty abhorrent in my opinion, but yeah, that would be one thing I didn't really like. So it really depends what they mean by that. Pet battles, I personally never did a pet battle. I don't really care about it. If they want to edit whatever, doesn't really, to be honest, affect me. I think they should rather focus their ideas and so on other stuff instead of just forcing like new modern stuff into like older content. So that's what I really hate, like what I really didn't like about SOD as well. Why do we always have to look at newer, like the newest expansions, see what they have and try to edit into older expansions? In my opinion, what I think is they are really thinking that the new modern stuff is correct and the best way and so on, and they probably can't really understand why people are playing classic. So they kind of try to insert like modern stuff into it, so just to see if people like it and so on. But yeah, like we don't really need like pet builds, like, let's be honest. Leveling professions improvements, ability to make more usable gear for yourself as you level and be able to craft it at level appropriate trait skill levels. Yes and no. We kinda have that, to be honest. If you look at the gear you can pretty much craft when you are leveling, or pretty much which would be like your level trait skills. There are some gear pieces which are really nice. I think there's like a pretty nice chest you could craft which was also best in slot in Season of Discovery, if I remember right, in Phase 1. Like that, I think, male chest. But yeah. Other than that, yeah, they could probably do this. Would probably be nice to have some other stuff we can use where we are leveling. However, one thing I want to mention, I don't really want to have soulbound gear. So if they add that, don't make it soulbound. Like, actually make it able to be sold on the auction house, so actually people can also make some gold as they are leveling and crafting these leveling gear pretty much. Next thing we have new class ability and spells. Brand new class abilities and or spells unique to this version of Classic. Yeah, why not? The thing is, however, I don't really trust the modern team we have right now to do stuff that is Classic appropriate. So yeah, unique stuff is okay. I personally would suggest if they would just look at what we have in the WoW beta and alpha and things that are got probably introduced in TBC and try to add these abilities, especially like the alpha and beta ones. Some of the stuff is really interesting. For example, we had stuff like rogues could use disguises. Actually, that was planned thing, so they could like turn into like different NPCs and so on, which is really interesting. But they didn't do that, probably because rogues have already so many professions in vanilla. But yeah, like they have their poison crafting and so on. But this would be like a thing which would be really cool actually. We have a lot of different stuff as well, but yeah, these are some of the things I would really like actually. Yeah. One thing they need to consider is, for example, I don't really like it how they did it in Season of Discovery, where they added new stuff and it was really busted and broken and completely ruined the overworld experience because you were just way too strong. So I don't really like that. Yeah, it really needs to be balanced around Classic. Okay, let's go to the next page. Yeah, this is not my first try recording this video. I had some issues, but maybe this one will work out. Who knows? Next one we have Honor Rewards redesign. Move honor rewards away from the original WoW model and towards the more seasonal model where new honor rewards are added to coincide with the new PvE rate tier updates. Just the awards. If it's just the rewards, okay. Like right now, how the rewards are pretty much built upon is you need to a certain rank, and then you can buy the gear of gold of the vendor. Yeah, that's pretty much it. One thing I really like about the system we have in Classic is that it's pretty unique. Like the ranking system and so on, we don't really have that in any other expansion. That's only in vanilla. And that is one thing. I also kind of like how they are like, it's kind of like an RP element to it, where you have, yeah, where you need, for example, need to reach a certain rank, or you can't even go to the halls of, what was it again? Halls of something, where you can actually buy your PvP gear and so on. So yeah, you need even a certain rank to reach that. However, I still think there are some problems with that. One thing, for example, I don't really like, which I will also talk about later. For example, where you need to wait, like for example, a week to get your rank. The completely degenerate AV spamming you need to do, because that's the best way to farm your ranking. But yeah, these are things. The rewards, they are overall pretty broken. Having new stuff for every like new PvE rate tier update would actually be pretty fun. I think like just having new like classic gear. But yeah, I think that would be nice. However, what I don't really want to have is where they completely replace it and just add the newer modern ones from newer expansions. That would be pretty boring and kind of sad, to be honest. Next one we have WoW tokens. So WoW tokens are, if you don't know, you can, that's pretty much a retail thing. I am really against WoW tokens. What they pretty much are is you can just buy them with real money. I think they are like, for example, I think 20 euros or something. You can get a WoW token and you can sell them on the auction house in game, which is pretty much pay to win. Like, let's be honest, it's pretty much pay to win. I really hated it when they added that one in Wrath of the Lich King. Of course, you could say the only really nice thing about it is that you can get some World of Warcraft game time by just playing the game and buying like WoW tokens of the auction house. But like, that's, I think, really bad way to do it. That's like the only good thing about it. It pretty much incentivizes pay to win. Like, for example, let's say we have a player. He doesn't really like to do anything in the game. He just buys a WoW token for 20 euros and just buys Lionheart helmet off the auction house. And yeah, bam, he has the best in slot helmet just that easily. Now you could say, okay, there are a lot of gold buyers who do the same thing, which is true. I agree with that. However, it is a difference if it is officially supported by WoW, like by Blizzard, or if it's like a pretty much illegal kind of thing where you could get your account banned and so on. So yeah, there's a big difference, I think between the two. So I would be pretty much 100% against WoW tokens. The only thing which would be cool, kind of, to have, where we would have WoW tokens in the game, but you can't buy them with real money. You can just use your gold you have in the game to buy a WoW token, where you can get some game time. That's it. Like, you can't buy WoW tokens with real money. You can just only buy them with gold in game, which, yeah, would be kind of cool to have that way. I think that would be more balanced. However, Blizzard wouldn't make any money with that one, of course, and they would actually lose money, so they wouldn't do it. So yeah, but yeah, no WoW token. Class talent adjustments. This is more overly talking about streamlining and improving class talents to make weaker specializations and classes more viable. I agree with this. Vanilla has, like, one of the biggest problems of Vanilla WoW is a lot of classes are simply not really viable. Like, we have only like warriors as in DPS and so on, and as tanks. And yeah, that's really sad. A lot of other classes are pretty bad. They have a lot of problems. Some classes only use like one spell. I think there should be definitely some class talent adjustments should definitely be done. However, it's really important to look what they should change. I really don't want to have Wrath of the Lich King in Classic WoW. So what they kind of did in SOD gave us some Wrath of the Lich King abilities. For example, I don't think Divine Storm belongs in Classic WoW. That they should not add that, 100% not. But they should look at, for example, TBC, see how the talents got changed, because TBC pretty much did this already. They changed the talents. They didn't do a lot of changes. What they did is they expanded the talents and they added new stuff, and they added some new abilities for everyone to get, and that fixed a lot of classes. For example, Prot Paladins, which didn't really exist beforehand, now had the taunt and were the best AoE tank, which they were kind of before, but not really, because they didn't have a taunt. But now they were a real thing, and you could use them in raids, even as like main tanks as well. Yeah, that wasn't a thing before in Vanilla. So TBC already fixed a lot of stuff. I think they should look at that direction, try to implement things like this. Yeah, and make also their own decisions. However, this really needs to be balanced around the classic environment. I don't really want to see things like Blade Storm or Titan's Fury. Is it called Titan's Fury? No, I forgot, to be honest. Titan's Fury. Titan's Grip in WoW, where you have like two two-handers. No, I keep that in Wrath of the Lich King and further expansions. We don't need that in Classic. Account-wide perks and progression system. A system to allow you to gather points and spend them on account-wide bonuses such as quality of life, convenience, encouraging, playing alts, specializing in specific activities. What this pretty much means is you could do some stuff on your main, get some account-wide bonuses, and would make alt leveling easier. This really reminds me of things like Azerite farming and so on from like the modern WoW expansions. I don't really know if they mean that by things like that, or the guild stuff we had. I think in Cataclysm we had some bonuses like that. Yeah, I don't really know what they really mean by that. My suggestion would be, we have a lot of reputations in WoW Classic, in WoW Vanilla, that are kind of unused and not, they don't really have anything. For example, like the Waldheimer clan. Why not have these reputations give you something? Make a lot of reputations, like also account wide, where you can actually buy some quality of life things from the reputation vendors. For example, let's say you have like a Westfall reputation maybe, and yeah, you do like a lot of stuff with your main there. And when you come back with an alt in Westfall, you can buy some stuff from the reputation vendor, which can make leveling also a bit easier with like your alts and so on. So that would be kind of more like a classic friendly suggestion. I don't really know what they really mean by that one. Yeah, could be a good idea, could be not. Playable high elves. 100% yes. I want to have high elves in the game. We already have them in Vanilla WoW, but we don't. They're of course not playable, and they're kind of unique to Vanilla because I think in TBC everyone got changed. They changed the model, so we have. Yeah, so you will see some NPCs in the overworld who look kind of strange and cursed. But I like this, to be honest. I think if they add high elves, they should definitely add this model, like these models, because they really fit like the classic theme, and yeah, makes a lot of sense. They could give them some slight tweaks. However, what I really don't want to have is if they add just blood elves as the high elves. So they just give them the blood elves model, which would kind of suck, like, let's be honest. So that would be, yeah, I wouldn't really like that, because high elves are something else and blood elves, they are not the same thing. And I think this model is pretty unused, so having that as a playable race would be pretty fun actually. Okay, what else do we have? Revisiting known but unexplored zones. Yes, 100%. We want to have zones like Mount Hyjal, Uldum, and Jynneas explorable. Like, why? I still don't understand why Season of Discovery didn't go into that direction. We already have the zones there. Why not? Well, yeah, or where? Like, the zones are already here. Why not make it accessible? Why not just remove the barriers? I don't know. They did some stuff with Hyjal, but it was kind of related to the Ashbringer quest. Yeah, but that's not really what I mean. Like, they don't really have a purpose in game, but they are so interesting. There's a lot of unfinished content, but we don't get to do anything there. That's really lame, actually. And I think Season of Discovery really dropped the ball by fleshing out these zones. Especially things like Uldum, which has like this quest chain you can do, but it's pretty unfinished and ends abruptly, which yeah, we have multiple of these quest chains in Vanilla WoW, which is pretty sad. But yeah, there are a lot of zones actually. We have like Mount Hyjal, we have Uldum, which could be in dungeon or raid easily, like not the Cataclysm one. We want to have like in Vanilla one. Jynneas, of course. We have like the Timbermoor faction and lots of different stuff as well. Like there's so much unused stuff in the game. I really like to actually watch and uncut and unused stuff. Not uncut, but cut content from like World of Warcraft Vanilla. It's so interesting to me. I even read through like the diary. Like there's a pretty nice book where you can actually read some about like the development, about classic WoW and so on. And there's a lot of cut content and so on mentioned. I think that's really, really interesting actually. And there's a lot of documentation There are even videos and there are even game files of whole zones, things like the Emerald Dream. Yeah, actually, let me show you this stuff. Show you this stuff. I don't know if it's here on this video. But yeah, for example, this one is Kerosene.
But it really, you've seen the 4.5 complete and
we have Anchorage, but okay, Anchorage exists.
Also, again, if you have any
yeah, this one is, so for example, the Kulturen model. Also, you can see some housing, which I will talk about a bit later. But yeah, you have a lot of different stuff actually. You have even Emerald Dream in vanilla. Yeah, I don't know. Here, for example. Oh, this is a really old video, 17 years ago. Yeah, as you can see, huge zone. Jeff Kaplan talked about this. Nothing in Season of Discovery. We had incursions, but they didn't do anything with this. So we have this in the game. We have private servers which kind of incorporate these events, but we can't have Blizzard doing anything about this, which is really disappointing. So yeah, we have even so interesting actually, but nothing. Like we have a lot of zones that are like this. So yeah, that's really sad, to be honest. I think Classic Plus, if they don't do anything with these zones, I don't know, to be honest. It's such wasted potential. Player housing, you already saw that. Instance personalized housing for players and guilds. I think this is also really cool. We had, you have this in Worlds of Draenor, they made that. However, I don't really want to have that version. I want to have the vanilla beta one they tried to do. So in Stormwind, you have that giant gate, and behind that giant gate you have an instance portal which is pretty much unused. Like, it is there for a very long time, but you don't do anything with that. What they plan to do is pretty much when you enter that, you would enter your house, your housing stuff, so you could do your stuff there. But they didn't finish it, and that's kind of sad. There's a lot of different like cut content about that and so on. Another thing that is mentioned here is like guilds, which I think is even more interesting. Like, let's imagine you could do your own like guild houses where you have like your guild and so on, and that would be pretty fun. Customize it and have your guild members around and so on. That would be actually pretty cool, to be honest. But yeah, what I mean by housing, there are some betas of World of Warcraft. For example, like this guy made a video about it.
0.5.3.
And this was like before the game actually released, and they planned things like housing. You can see that feature here, which is really insane that they had things like these like back in 2003. And you can see you can place houses like everywhere. It's so insane actually. But this would be really cool to have. Next one, we have achievements. System to track game milestones and accomplishments. Of course, achievements are always nice. Of course, why not? Cross-realm play. The ability to group with friends from other realms for dungeon battlegrounds and other instance activities. The thing is, we have that kind of already. Like, battlegrounds are already cross-realm. We don't have that for dungeons and instance activities. However, that would be kind of strange how that would work actually. Because you would kind of need a dungeon browser or so. So would the dungeon browser we have right now also incorporate players from other realms where you could invite them as well? Which would be kind of interesting. I wouldn't be too much against this. However, I think personally, I really like the idea, more of an idea where we have really limited amount of realms. I don't really like the idea where we have like a lot of realms and we kind of split the player base a lot with that, and that's, I think, a thing I don't really like. So instead, what we can have is just where we have like a lot less realms and we have everyone on there. So that kind of eliminates that problem. But yeah, cross-realm play is probably a really good option for like really dead realms where you have like a really low player base. So that one already kind of exists, however. Let's actually go to the next one. I need to do this. So yeah. Next one, you have the honor system redesign. So a ground-up redesign of the honor system, removing the hard honor cap, making the system more evergreen and continually engaging. This is what I meant with like talking about rank 14 and so on. Completely reworking it. I think they should really try to incorporate like the ranking system we have right now in Classic, but more make it like more enjoyable and so on to actually use it. I think it's really interesting to have like different ranks and so on. And that's also unique to vanilla. I don't think they should remove it. That's one thing. Removing the honor cap is a thing I agree with. And also another thing, I think it would be better to have more of a dynamic system with the ranking system. So instead of having needing to wait a week, for example, to actually get your rank, it would be more dynamic. It would be like instant, which would be more fun, to be honest. Let's be honest. Maybe have more of a system where you can actually rank similar to like League of Legends or games like that have it, where you have actually ranks and so on, which would be kind of similar to this. And also, instead of just being with honor, it would be kind of different to actually get the actual ranks. So yeah, make it more like expand the system a bit more, make it more complex and so on, which would be more fun. War mode. As an alternative to PvP servers, this mode would allow you to opt in to PvP in the open world via toggle and main factions. War mode is a thing I mostly play on PvP servers, so I don't think I would be affected by this. On PvP servers, this wouldn't make any sense anyway. But yeah, maybe for PvE servers, you could enable that. Maybe get the benefit where you get a bit more XP or so. I don't know, to be honest, what it would. Because I remember in Modern Expansion, you actually get some benefits by enabling War mode. You actually get some XP and so on. But yeah, if there's no benefit to using this, nobody would use it. And then if someone would use it, you wouldn't have anyone to actually fight with because, like I said, nobody is really using it. So yeah, it really needs to be done in a good way. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about War mode. Brand new zones, completely new playable areas with unique lore added to Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor. Yes, definitely. We could have new zones. That's like always new content is always a good thing. However, I think they should really look at like get some inspiration from maybe Warcraft. We have like a lot of areas from Warcraft that are probably not in the game. We have a lot of cut content, which I talked about earlier. Even like for example the islands in Stranglethorn Vale, which were cut. Sorry, that could be stuff they could add. They really need to make it Warcraft or like Classic like. Like I feel like Classic and Warcraft are kinda intertwined with each other. They really try to make, because pretty much what World of Warcraft is, it was built up from Warcraft. There are like some really old images where you can actually see that the first versions of World of Warcraft were pretty much Warcraft 3. But yeah, they worked on that. Like, so it would make sense to have that kind of lore, but it really needs to have that classic theme. So yeah, that's pretty important actually. Next one, we have 20 player raids, 40 player raids, new raids. We definitely need to have them. For example, Uldum, I mentioned that one before, which can pretty much be a raid or a dungeon, whatever. So yeah, that would be one thing. Of course, new raids is always a thing that should happen. There were a lot of plans that they tried to do. For example, I think there was they wanted to make a raid in Ashara, like an underwater raid or something like that. There was like an instance portal planned, and yeah, that was one thing. What else? There's that one portal that leads into Hyjal, which got pretty much a raid in TBC, but I think Hyjal as a zone's probably better, I would say. Yeah. And yeah, one thing, however, I don't really like is 40-man raids. I think this is a pretty controversial opinion. However, I played like a lot of Classic Anniversary. The biggest problem I have for 40-man raids is just the roster. Like the most difficult boss in Classic is like the roster boss, because filling up 40 people, especially like in a guild, is a pretty annoying and daunting task. I don't wish it to anybody, and that's really annoying. You also have to kind of design the raids in a way where you don't really need 40 mans to clear it, so you can clear it with less people, which is kind of a thing. Like every raid is kind of designed that way in Classic. So yeah, I kind of more prefer the like 25-man raids and so on, but that's more of an subjective thing. Next one, you have graphical improvements, lightning and shadows and surface. Using modern technology to improve the lighting engine and game for more realistic light, shadows and reflections on surfaces like water and glass. This will also be probably a controversial opinion, but I would say no. Why I mean that? Classic has a certain feeling with the with the art style and so on, that works. It has like its own identity. What I see a lot of people doing is pretty much this, like having like for example this one, this one's pretty much AI, so I will talk about that a bit later. But yeah, we have this one, for example, from Turtle War, and a lot of people are hyped about this. I am not. I don't really like it at all. Why don't I like it? I think it's just too much. For example, as you can see, this one is just way too bright. It's just way too much contrast. It kind of ruins the like cozy, relaxed art style World of Warcraft has. I don't really like the modern game engines where everything is so bright, everything has like 100 contrast. That is really annoying, to be honest. Yeah, like this one, like we have so much contrast on the character models, we can't even see them. So yeah, so why would that be a good thing, to be honest? It looks good for cinematics and so on, but actually playing the game, I don't know about that. Everything's so dark. You don't even can't even really see the characters. But yeah, like this one's a good comparison actually. Like we have this, you can see everything. Okay, we don't have any shadows, but it has its own charm. Yeah. But yeah, this one, like, look at this place. Like everything's so bright. I don't really like it. This is more of a boomer take, but
high performance experience.
I don't really like it at all. It's just too much. I don't really like how everything is so bright. Like look at this. Like look how bright this is. Like compared to this one where you have like the real kind of colors, which don't really destroy your eyes. But yeah. One thing I like, however, is how dark Duskwood is, which should be a thing, but we can have that in the game as well. Like, they could change Duskwood to be more darker. That was the plan originally in vanilla. Duskwood was way darker back then, but yeah, yeah, I don't know about that, to be honest. That's one thing. We have even more extreme examples, like we have things like these, like this is just AI, but this one doesn't even look like World of Warcraft anymore. Let's be honest. Looks way different. And this is the thing I mean, where when we improve the graphics so much, that's kind of what the problems we are going to get into, because it doesn't really look like World of Warcraft anymore. So that's the thing I want to talk about, which I don't really like about this. I think personally what they would do is also do things like that. Probably do like a modern engine for just the graphics and so on, which for example Oblivion and so on did, and do the rest of the things, keep it as it is, keeps the like engine they are using right now. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this at all. New trade skills, new primary and secondary professions. Yes, definitely we need more professions in the game, more variety what we want to pick. For example, things like jewel crafting, which would be kind of difficult to add, but still, I like jewel crafting. Other stuff we had, which was planned, we had like a skill which was like the survival skill, which where we could craft some torches, some campfires and so on, which got removed, but the things got kind of transferred to other professions like first aid and cooking, but still maybe reworking survival would be pretty interesting to have it in the game. That I think would be a fun idea. And yeah, that would be one thing. Let's actually go to the next one. And we don't really have a lot left, so we can talk about this. So yeah, we have graphical texture improvements and resolution upgrade. Using modern technology to improve the fidelity of textures used on classic art assets. Yes and no. So the problem is in classic we have a lot of gear and so on that is really low resolution. For example, we have like Meledeth, which looks amazing, but it is really low resolution, sadly. That's just the thing. Like back then, they didn't really have the technology and so on. So yeah. However, one thing I really disagree with is a lot of people are pretty much, because this would be probably a higher quality one, people are kind of trying to remake these, and a lot of times they kind of ruin the aesthetic and so on of these items by making them higher quality. I think Classic WoW, with its really dated graphics, has a lot of charm with a lot of items, and items look really amazing, but you will have a lot of people who are trying to kind of remaster the items, and yeah, sometimes it looks good, sometimes it doesn't. What I will think about when I read this is using modern technology. I think they would probably just use AI, to be honest. That would probably happen. I don't think they would hire any artists to remake these unique models and so on. We have, I think, there was like this one guy who made Lionheart. And this is pretty much the perfect, yeah, this guy. So this guy pretty much takes old vanilla models and tries to remake them. For like, yeah, modernize them. However, most of the time it really works. He's a pretty great artist. For example, but this one is really one of the best examples I could give. First of all, like there's a new model. It looks just way more goofy, but whatever. That's not really his fault. But I like the older one. Like you can call me a boomer, but it is more vibrant. The colors are like more there. And with this one, this is the thing a lot of people are doing. Like the colors and so on are like more bland. Yeah, it looks more, not really simplified, but it's also a bit too much. But yeah, this one looks way more menacing than this one. It looks way more, I don't know, more threatening or so than this one. It is of course a lot lower quality. Here we have actually like model differences. Here it's just a texture, but still, I think this one still looks way better than this one, to be honest. And you can argue with this with me, no problem. But yeah, I don't really like it at all. So that's the thing a lot of people are actually doing. So yeah, this one is the old one, and I think it looks really nice actually. But yeah, the colors and so on are just, yeah, this is what I mean. This one looks more, I don't know, it looks more soulless. Can I say it like that? I don't know. Like it has it's less vibrant. Like the colors a lot like more muted and so on. And that's what a lot of people are doing. A lot of people like this. I don't really like it, but I hope you can understand my argument, what I want to make. But yeah, that's the problem we have. If they want to do this, they really need to look how they can pretty much work on that. Still make it so it makes sense in classic WoW. But yeah. Next one, we have new battlegrounds. Or new battleground. New objective-based PvP instance. Oh, objective-based. Okay, interesting. I personally think we should have more than one new battleground. Should have, yeah, like more. There are 2 unused battlegrounds in Azura. Um, um, yeah, okay, it's called Azura. Unused. So one of them is more of a MOBA-like. So I don't know which one it was. So yeah, I think, is it called this one? Could be this one. I think no, it's not this one. This one is the other one. So we have 2. One is more of a MOBA-like. The other one is more of an like normal battleground. And these are unused, and both are in Azura, which is really sad that they weren't used. And they could try to bring them back actually, because why not? I really would love it. But yeah, as you can see, another person was like asking for this in SOD. This is a video from like Haven Games. Rest in peace. I really like his videos. He made some amazing WoW beta and alpha stuff. But as you can see, like this battleground looks really good, and it looks finished as well. And we didn't get it. So yeah, I think this one was the one which was like the MOBA one, if I'm not wrong. Which we had like 3 lanes. But yeah, I could be wrong about this. Really sad actually. Didn't got used. So yeah, why not? Why don't we have that? I don't understand why they didn't really try to make anything in SOD like this. Okay, it could be kind of difficult, but they had Scarlet Enclave. They made that. That was a new thing they did. Why couldn't we have like Azura? I don't understand it. New race class combinations. New class race combinations, including those never before seen in Warcraft. I don't know. Isn't Modern WoW like pretty much every race class combination? I think there are even like human hunters and so on. So what is new? Like what don't we have? Would be my question, to be honest. I think it would be more interesting to have like new races, and then we have like classes for that race and so on. So instead of giving, I don't know, like human hunters and whatever they want to make, what is new? I don't know what is even. The one thing I think they tried to do is they wanted to make dwarf mages, which were even I think in the game manual, but it didn't got added, so that they could maybe add that one. Yeah, I would rather have even more things, like bigger things, like new classes, for example. Character classes that are completely new to any version of World of Warcraft. Yes. Yeah, new classes, why not? There are some private servers and so on that have pretty much new classes. And that could be an idea. However, one thing, it's not really hard, but apparently for the WoW dev team, it's really hard to have that classic feeling for the classes. And that is the thing I don't really trust with them, so I don't really have a lot of hope for them to make classes that feel really classic. So I would either think it would be a way better class than everything else, or it would have like modern stuff or whatever. So I don't really like that. Another thing is they completely ignore having like modern or classes which already exist in Classic. So things like Death Knight. But why not? Why not bring Death Knights, monks, demon hunters, and such into Classic, but give them their own Classic identity? What I mean by that, for example, we even have these classes as NPCs. For example, Scarlet Monks. So in Scarlet Monastery, you can find these people. Like, this is a really nice picture. Looks really badass. Like kind of the Tien meme, if you know about that. But yeah, whatever. We have these monks, and why don't we have? And they look really interesting and so on. But why don't we have a class kind of revolved around that? So we could bring back the monk into Classic WoW, which got added in Mists of Pandaria, but give it its own classic identity. So we kind of would have that. For example, maybe we can only use like unarmed stuff, and we can wear like cloth, and we would have, I don't know, it's like strange ideas which would kind of make sense in classic. But yeah, but we have these NPCs. We have, I don't know, we have like, we kind of have, yeah, we have this guy, for example, which is, yeah, we have like these NPCs in, also in WoW vanilla, and also in TBC we had these, which can wear glaives, but we can't wear glaives in the game in vanilla, sadly. They exist in the game files, actually, there are some glaives, but yeah, we can't, however, that's sad. So why not have this as in class as well? Give it its own classic flavor and so on. As you can see, the thing about classic is that it's really more of an grounded approach. So this class, as you can see, like the Legion one, would have a lot more, I don't know, it's actually compared to the Legion Demon Hunter. Yeah, like look at this, like a lot more stuff going around, like horns, everything, whatever. What I mean by that, like this, for example, it's a lot more stuff, and classic WoW is kind of more muted in that regard, I think. But however, it looks really clean. That's what I really like about the classic aesthetic. So yeah, why not have a Demon Hunter actually be a playable race, a playable class in vanilla, but give it more like in vanilla spin. So it makes actually sense. Death Knights were even planned in vanilla. I think the original idea was to have where you would need to sacrifice your own max level character, and that character would then become a Death Knight. So that is kind of interesting. Yeah, pretty metal actually, of an idea to having to sacrifice your character. But yeah, why not? That would be also really interesting. And I think Death Knights originally were like more disease stuff made. So yeah, they weren't really, I don't know. I think I don't like the Warcraft version is a lot different. But yeah, why not look at that and try to incorporate that somehow into the game? I think that would make more sense in my opinion. Okay, next one, you have 10-player raids, 100%. Karazhan, for example, is like my most favorite raid. I really love Karazhan, and it's a 10-player raid. So yeah, definitely. Also makes more sense. A lot of people really like that. Lower level, you saw that a lot in SOD, where people were like complaining because, for example, Sunken Temple raised the level, not the level, but what was it, the group size. And yeah, a lot of people were complaining about that. So having more 10-player raids would be nice. Cross-realm guilds. Ability to invite your friends from other realms to join your player guild. Yes and no. The problem is, like, guilds have their own identity, I think. Like, for example, you have a guild, and that guild is only on that one realm, and you know it, and whatever kind of would kill that, to be honest. However, another thing which I can understand is really annoying when you have, for example, your friends that are on another realm and they can't join you because you are playing on another realm. And yeah, that would be really annoying. But I think that would be mostly fixed by not having as many realms. I think a lot of new players are always having the problem where they need to choose a realm and they are kind of trapped, and maybe they pick the wrong realm, waste a lot of time leveling on that realm, and then see, oh, it was the wrong realm, and then they need to transfer or they quit. So yeah, realms in general, I think it's pretty outdated system, I think, to be honest. I would rather like if we would have more things like maybe like one server, mega servers and so on, and would be kind of linked to each other. I think that is probably a better idea. And yeah, we kind of have this in Classic Anniversary. We have a lot less realms, and I think that's just way more enjoyable actually. Transmogs. Yeah, the ability to change the appearance of your equipped items. Transmog will be only visible in rested areas, dungeon raids. No open world PvP, no battlegrounds. I think the reason why it isn't in world PvP and battlegrounds is probably so you can see what items and so on your opponent is wearing, so you don't yeah, so pretty much you can know what they have, like things like Silent Fang, or things there's that one chest which can put you to sleep, so would be pretty important. However, I think transmogs are pretty much an antithesis to classic WoW. What I mean by that is, let's say you are, let's say you are in Stormwind and you see someone with this right now. So yeah, this item is really difficult to get. It drops from a world boss. So yeah, this would be one thing. Or maybe you see someone with Sulfurous. Already this has such an thematic. So you can see, oh damn, he has Sulfurous. What's really nice. Or you see someone with really good gear and you inspect him and see, oh damn, he has really a lot of really good gear. And that kind of doesn't exist with transmogs. So transmogs, people would just, of course, would make the appearance. It would probably look better because you kind of have to mix match your gear. But it pretty much kills the thing where you see someone with really nice gear and think, damn, he has that gear, And that is really relevant in classic WoW because loot has like identity, which isn't a thing in modern WoW. Like you can ask any modern WoW player and ask them to name them the last weapon or so they used or they had, and they wouldn't remember it. Most of the time they wouldn't really remember the name. However, I can tell you right now, like for example, I am using Meladeth and Brutality Blade, and I know how these items look and so on. And yeah, that is a thing that exists in vanilla and in classic, but doesn't really exist in further expansions. I think this kind of started in Wrath of the Lich King, but yeah, but with the introduction with like even more difficulties and so on, it got killed pretty fast, to be honest, and we don't really have that at all in modern WoW. Maybe some trinkets and so on, but whatever. So yeah, this one would pretty much kill it. I think what would be cooler if we would have, instead of this, if you could have some items have some additional appearance. For example, if you use trinkets, you could actually see that on our characters or necks. There's like one neck in the game, which was only available really shortly. That was like a legendary neck, and only one like person in the world got it, and that has an actually appearance on the character. But yeah, that would be more fun. Like transmogs, I think they don't belong into classic. Playable paladins on the horde side. This is, I think, the last thing. I don't know why this is at the bottom, and shamans was at the like top. Yeah, of course, also horde should be able then to play paladins if I have the same opinion. No, horde shouldn't because I am biased towards alliance. But no, of course, horde should always also have the ability to play paladins when alliance can. However, same thing. I would also want to have like some new races instead, and kind of do it that way. However, I think horde side has probably more of an argument. For example, like undeads. Like undeads being able to play as paladins would probably be pretty cool. However, I would say, by that case, if they add that, 100% undead paladins should be different than, for example, alliance paladins. They should definitely have some different stuff. I think that would be really cool, actually, to have like really like kind of an undead paladin who's like kind of struggling because of course they are undead, and of course also hurts them to use the liked, but still they still want to try to use the liked and so on. So yeah, this would be kind of cool, to be honest. Next one we have this. So I think this is the last thing I will talk about, just from the survey, which is, yeah, regardless of which version of WoW is your current main version, what version of WoW do you think become your main version, the future ones, Clash of Mist and Pandaria ends? I think they asked the same question when Wrath ended, I think. Yeah, they kind of do these surveys a lot, and a lot of is like really important information actually. Basically, what it says is what would be a your choice. So we have a classic era, e.g. vanilla style servers realm of my Mist of Pandaria characters, which I don't really understand, like how that would work out, because like you have Mist of Pandaria gear and are like max level, so would that gear be removed, or I don't really understand that. A different version of classic without my Mist of Pandaria characters. I think this would be probably things like maybe TBC and so on. So TBC Classic and that, like what we have right now, WoW Classic Anniversary. Retail Modern WoW of my Mist of Pandaria characters. I don't think this could work as well, because there's a lot of gear that is not really obtainable in Retail WoW, but was obtainable in Mist of Pandaria, I think, if I'm not wrong. And that would probably clash. So, yeah, I don't know who they would do that. Wrath of the Lich King Classic or another earlier Classic expansion with my Mist of Pandaria characters. Again, I don't know how this one works. Like, we have Mist of Pandaria characters, but in previous expansions, would they just be max level? Would they just be the names and so on, and no gear? How would that work? I don't know. Classic Warlords of Draenor, if it becomes available. Yeah, I think that's kind of sad, but I think Warlords of Draenor, yeah, I don't think Classic Warlords of Draenor will release. It would be really weird to have it. The thing is, Warlords of Draenor was probably the most hated expansion. I really, really love the thematic. Like the cinematic's probably one of the best ones they ever made. However, it fell through. I didn't really play it at all. Like, I didn't play Warlords of Draenor. But yeah, really sad actually. Like, they lost. I think they had one less raid tier, and in these like more modern expansions, like the newer expansions, end game is pretty much everything. So if you have one less raid tier, yeah, that's really bad. A permanently frozen Mist of Pandaria Classic realm with no further updates. That could be also one suggestion. I think if Mist of Pandaria is really popular, this could probably become a thing. I do not plan to continue playing WoW after the end of Classic Mist of Pandaria. Yeah, also a thing. Me personally, I don't really care about Mist of Pandaria. I think like Mist of Pandaria is definitely not classic. I can see why they are releasing it. A lot of people are really liking Mist of Pandaria. They have that opinion. I think I only played Mist of Pandaria on a private server, and then was like leveling to max level. I was even like, I hit the max level, but then I quit because it was just, yeah, I don't know. I really didn't like it at all. Like, leveling. The dungeons were so boring. Like the same thing like Rev. But yeah, I really didn't like it. So I don't really care about Mist of Pandaria. If it ends or not, I won't play it. I don't care. One thing I think is really interesting, they aren't mentioning Legion. So they are mentioning Warlords of Draenor, but Legion is the other expansion where people talk they talk a lot about Legion and talk really highly about it, but it's not really mentioned anywhere here. Like, if they have Mist of Pandaria, like, Mist of Pandaria is not classic. Like, Mist of Pandaria is not classic, Cataclysm is not classic, Warlords of Draenor, of course, is not classic. Like, even seeing that, classic Warlords of Draenor. And yeah, and I think, in my opinion, even Wrath of the Lich King has some elements which are not really classic. I think it really started in Wrath of the Lich King. So yeah, for me personally, like, the best classic is Vanilla and TBC. That's it. And I like TBC more than Vanilla, but that's pretty much it. I really don't like Wrath. But yeah, a lot of people have different opinions. However, that's pretty much that. If I would play Mist of Pandaria, how I would choose it, I would probably... I think I would just either play like another version of Classic maybe, or yeah, and just chill and see what the next thing is that they plan, and quit until that, probably. But yeah, that would be that. We can actually look through some comments, see if there's anything Yeah, anything interesting here? Yeah, please skip this. Playable high lives, interesting. Hope they are introducing this what, Warcraft 2 free races that aren't on Modern WoW, like high elves. Yeah, ogres and nagas. Why don't we have these? I still don't understand why we don't have these. I would 100% play an ogre. Like, let's imagine you play an ogre. Damn, it would be so sick actually. And even if you could play in the old model, so we have yeah, no, that's not the old model. Oh, no, it is the old model. Yeah, it is the old model. Yeah, these really strange ones. They look so strange. But yeah, imagine if we could play as these. This would be so funny actually. Yeah, why don't we have ogres? So it's so strange. Nagas were, I think, planned in TBC, if I'm not wrong, but they couldn't make the armor work, so they didn't do it. Yeah, but that would be so insane actually to have that. Wrote a high elf last week on the. Yeah, I think Turtle WoW has like high elves. Kind of jealous with that. High elves are also pretty cool, like, to be honest. Summoning stones, yeah, 100%. Yeah, Blade Master. We want to have Blade Master. Why can't we have Blade Master? You could say, okay, we have warriors, but like Blade Master's 100% different than Blade Master. Maybe we could have like race class combinations. So if we pick in maybe Night Elf Warrior, which this guy probably mentions, like we would get an Warden or something like that. Would be kind of interesting. Keep the goofy ass retail characters models out of it. I 100% agree. Like the retail models, no. Please no. Like they are so horrible. Goofy is my dwarf looking crackhead on Winner because I don't. Talking about art directions and calling people crazy. I think it's so funny actually. Always when people on Reddit are arguing with each other. I think it's so funny. But yeah, this guy is high on something. If he doesn't think like the new like art style of like retail models is pretty goofy, especially compared to the classic one. Really good looking. Yeah, no. Doesn't really look like Warcraft at all. Updated, whatever. See if I have anything else. Yeah, I think this kind of confirms Classic Plus, which is pretty interesting. If you have pretty much anything to say as well, feel free to comment about it. I made this video pretty spontaneously. However, this isn't my first try making this video. I had some issues again. But there's a lot of different cut content that they didn't do anything in SOD, which is really lame. For example, we had even stuff like City Protector, which was rank 15. Which they didn't add. Like, they didn't do anything with that. I think Season of Discovery is really wasted potential. If they want to do Classic Plus, they really need to scrape kind of everything we had, which was cut content and so on, and try to make something out of it. Or else it would be really a big disappointment. Because they are competing with things like Turtle WoW, and Turtle WoW is really massive. I remember back in the day, Turtle WoW was one of the least played servers, and now it's one of the most popular ones. It's actually really insane. But yeah, that's the thing. That is really important. They actually need to do some stuff. They actually need to bring some effort into Classic Plus. Scarlet Enclave, I think, was a good direction, to be honest. Like, not from the balancing and so on, from the power creep and like people doing 10k damage and so on, but just as an idea, I really like that. But we need something like real Classic Plus grounded and have some new content on there. New races, better talents, new classes, things which freshen up Classic. I really don't want to see just having another fresh classic, and yeah, that would be really boring, to be honest. Okay, that's for me. I talked about it, about this a lot. This will probably be another really long video, but yeah, if you like these kinds of videos, feel free to like and subscribe. I will try to do more and more videos, and yeah, I will see you on the next one. Have a great night. Goodbye.